Hello everybody and welcome to Loco Ludwig. So we start your week off with a little bit of kindness.
And a little bit of chaos.
Today, we're doing something I never thought that we would actually do.
Yeah.
We were personally invited to go and see the Cirque Du Soleil show here in Disney Springs.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We've been talking about wanting to go for what?
A long time.
Literally the entire time I think we've ever come to Disney Springs. But we want to bring you guys along with us. So if you want to see Cirque Du Soleil, if you want to see us enjoying ourselves,
I don't know if you can record in there. We'll find out.
We'll see. Bye. Before we go in, we're going to have a little date night and see if Splitsville would take us at the bar. So we have our spot here overlooking Disney Springs. Honestly, this is where we sat last time, but it's funny because I can actually see exactly where we sat. We're there in that semi-private area with the view of the sign. The head count is for 7:30, so we have about probably like 25-ish minutes to eat, so I think we're just gonna order everything and just chow down what we can. So what I got last time was this California Crunch. I think I'm gonna do that again. And I'm a little bit on a Japanese kick, so maybe we'll get some edamame and we can spice it up with some chili sauce. Have these pan-fried pot stickers. Ooh, both of them sound really good. Ooh! Oh, the sea salt on this, Lord. That's like the perfect amount of saltiness. Thoughts on the edamame?
Yeah.
This is our first time getting it, actually. Usually we'll get the cheese fries and we'll get the buffalo egg rolls, but this is our first time getting it. I would get this again in a heartbeat. You know me, I'm a huge salt girl. And they coated every square inch of these things with like heavy, thick sea salt flakes. I'm a fan. Realized we were so hungry that we didn't even film the food here, but yeah, we demolished it. The edamame, there's not one bean left. And the only thing that's left is the dang wasabi, which I'm not going to be like Tomater and Cars 2, so. Being said, we are on our way out. After all of that amazing food, we are now going to head into Cirque du Soleil.
The NBA experience.
I know, NBA experience is no mas. First off, RIP Disney Quest.
Yeah.
That was a time. But anyway, I don't know what to expect for this show. You said it best. I have no idea if we're going to be able to film inside for you guys. I hope we can. But worst case scenario, we'll get checked in, we'll do our thing, and then afterwards we'll come back and tell you guys how it was. Here to pick up our media passes.
We'll open in about a couple minutes. You're welcome to use the stairs or your complimentary.
Much. Thank you. Okay, so this is gonna be our seats, and we did get a complimentary food voucher, so we're gonna wait in this little concessions line and get some snacks. We've gotten our seats, and take a look. We have a really, really great view. Looks like they're just doing their pre-show right now, and they actually got some kids to come in and help, which is super cute. We're sitting, guys, it looks like there is this giant circle, almost outer stage, I guess, but they have all of these seats. So I'm thinking we're probably gonna get like right up close to everything.
Sorry. Hey.
Now they're projecting the little kids' drawings. That is too cute. That's a bit frightening, but I'm into it. And that's Mickey. I think it's Mick. It's his cousin. Twice removed. Aww. Somebody with Mickey ears on. Okay. Aww. Oh, they're lightsabers. Getting these kids out of their shell. It's really cute. I don't know who drew that. That's impressive. So the story itself is called Drawn to Life, and I'm thinking it's going to be all about these different animators and Disney like magic.
Before the adventure begins, please make sure your family has silence or turned off their phones. Many parents need help finding the off button on their phone, so now is the time for you to help them. Should there be an emergency, look for the red exit signs. The ushers will direct you safely from the theater. Please do not forget your parents or other family members, including any pets. During the performance, do not text or take video or photographs.
We'll come back to you guys afterwards. Bye. Oh my God. We are gonna find a way out of here and then we're gonna debrief. Saw that! What I'm thinking we're gonna do, because we weren't able to show you guys everything, I want us to go home and I want to be able to try and show you some of the footage that Disney helped us cultivate. Okay, we are back. It has been a few days since our performance of Cirque du Soleil, but I'm so excited to do a full debrief with you guys and give you guys a little insight on just how amazing it was. Now, I would like to do a huge preface that Disney did not gift us these tickets. One of these days, I am praying that I get a media contract with Disney where I'll be able to go to some of those media events. This one happened to be under my company. So the company that I work for actually gives us different perks, especially at the end of a quarter. This one happened to be free tickets to Cirque du Soleil at Disney Springs. So shout out to my company for being able to watch this amazing performance, and shout out to Disney for having the footage that I'm going to be able to show you guys here. If my voice sounds a little deeper, I did have to undergo a tiny little procedure, so I've just been kind of vegging out for the past few days, but I really wanted to make sure that I was able to come to you with my thoughts that were still fresh. So to give you guys an overview of what exactly the Cirque du Soleil show was about, essentially the storyline goes, there is a little girl who unfortunately her father passes away, and her father was an animator, and he basically left her this animation that she had to finish. And so she goes on this journey of animation to figure out how to actually animate, but more than that, she overcomes her own fears in the form of like scrapped ideas or just ideas that weren't good enough. This show was phenomenal. I loved it. I think the coolest part for me was seeing every single act, which I'm going to be able to break down with you guys, literally the entire thing. But more than that, it was so interesting to see how they took all of these amazing performers and they tied the Disney magic into it. The best thing that I could compare it to is if you've gone on any of the Disney Cruise Line ships. That's pretty comparable. I will say the storyline was a teensy bit harder to follow because there weren't so many words in Cirque du Soleil, but it didn't make it any less fantastic. So the first section they started out with was the inner world of animation. Now this was their rhythmic gymnastics portion, and guys, I mean, what a way to kick off the show. It basically had a group of people that were dressed as like ideas, right? In my humble opinion, I think that this was probably the cleanest act of the night. Watching them perform was phenomenal. Seeing how high they got off the ground after just bouncing with their body weight was insane. You could see that they worked in so much tandem where, and you'll see this as a theme throughout the entire show, if one baby thing is off, everyone can fall. Like, it's very much high stakes, and truly it's only a mat that's separating you from all the way up top to all the way in the bottom. So the next part of the show was animating a ball. Now they took this literally and they actually had a juggling act. Performer was fantastic. I think at one point he had 7 balls in the air, and I was just looking in awe thinking, how the heck are you doing that? It was really, really fantastic. And I thought that it was pretty cutesy as well because they had a bunch of different performers around them, and the little girl was there kind of watching him animate, and she was getting a sense of how to actually do it. And so the juggling act was really, really cute. I will say this act was probably the most low stakes out of all of them, which kind of gave my heart a little bit of a breather because there's a few sections that truly made me think like, oh my God, something is going to happen and I am going to be a witness. Okay, this next section is called Dream Colors, and this was so beautiful. It was essentially a cradle wheel where there were 2 different performers and they were both dressed as paintbrushes. It was really sweet to kind of see them be thrown up in the air. They did have a wire the entire time, which did, I don't want to say take away from the illusion, but it did bring me more peace knowing that they weren't going to fall. The next section was the Garden of Lines, and this is when we start to really ramp things up. This was their unicycles portion of the performance, and oh my God, these women, these performers were dressed as like these beautiful little garden fairies, and they were on their unicycle and they were rolling all around, and this made my heart leap out of my chest because the tricks that they were doing, they were hopping over each other, they were moving so gracefully. It freaked me out, but in a really beautiful way. I absolutely loved that section because they had these almost like wire sculptures of Disney characters, which I really loved every time they brought in the Disney magic. In this specific part of the performance, we probably had our biggest, I will say, fall. There were actually 2 performers that did go down, and it was very scary because the way that they were in kind of formation, if one person goes down, another person will go down with them. So I'm grateful that they got right back up. They started doing their thing. They barely missed a beat. But that made my heart jump because the noise of scary. Don't recommend that, but my God. Now, the next part of the performance was called the Old Mill, which was their double cradle. Now, this is where I truly lost years off of my life. Jake was next to me the entire time, squeezing my arm, squeezing my knee, because it was insane. So to try and put this into words, there were essentially these performers, and think of the single cradle, but the double cradle, this thing moved in tandem the entire time, and they at some point were sprinting inside of this cradle where it almost looked like a little hamster wheel. But what they ended up doing is, instead of from being just on the outside, they brought themselves on the outside and were quite literally sprinting in mid-air. This was insane. It scared the living daylights out of me. And just when I thought that I couldn't get any more insane, they literally brought jump ropes to jump rope as they're running in midair. How this is like physically possible, I couldn't tell you. But when I tell you that was insane and amazing, that was probably my favorite part of the performance, because definitely it did have more danger, but more than that, you can just tell like the level of professionalism and the level of like craft and technique. You can't fake that. It was insane. Okay, now we start kind of, I want to say, going into the emotional part of the performance. Hand to Hand Love was beautiful. This was probably the part of the performance where I felt the heartstrings starting to tug a little bit. This was the most beautiful display of just art between 2 different performers. It's exactly what you think it is, where it's hand to hand. It was insanity because at one point we're seeing her quite literally float through the air, and we're wondering, is she defying gravity? Like, is her partner like slowing her down? Like, what's going on? There was this invisible wire that I have to give props to Cirque Du Soleil and Disney. You could not see it. So it quite literally was as magical as you could think. It looked like she was moving in slow motion in the air. This again was the most heartwarming part to me because they slowed it down and they brought in all of the different princesses, all of the different love stories, all of the different ballroom scenes, and the soundtrack was just like brava and kudos to Disney, because that was just beautiful. Like, words can't put it into words how much I love that part. Then we have the Squatch and Stretch, which this guy is actually their teeter board. This kind of brought a little bit of comedic relief after almost everyone in the crowd was in tears. And basically think of just a seesaw, or like a teeter seesaw from when you were younger. And then there's someone that's jumping on one side and then someone that's jumping on the other. I really thought it was cute because you could tell the level of trust that they had in each other. They were doing flips in the air. It was insanity. And in fact, they even had these almost human rubber bands that made them propel forward. It was insane. I loved that part because you can just tell they had a lot of fun with it. And it was, again, kind of more the comedic relief after something very emotional. So yeah, I did love Squatch and Stretch. I thought it was very, very cute. And that brings us to the final part of our performance. Now, this part of the performance was called Swing to Swing. So basically, they would, again, be swinging from one side, because there was 2 of them, and they would swing to the other. They would be doing flips. They would essentially be having to be caught by their castmates behind them because all of the velocity of them going over. That part, again, took a little bit of years off of my life, but I thought it was absolutely beautiful because that kind of brought you into the finale, which the finale was beautiful. essentially what happens is the daughter, she ends up finishing this animation and it goes through everything. And I really loved it because the entire stage is basically decorated in pieces of paper. And so the projections were going from her swinging, right, all the way across the theater. And so being able to sit there and listen to it and watch it was just absolutely beautiful. And it was a very heartwarming story because essentially the dad, I don't want to say comes back from the dead. He doesn't come back from the dead, but he does like live to see her animation. And you see the part in which when he passed kind of stopped and when her animation took over and how they joined together. So it was very heartwarming. I really, really liked it. And I'm so glad that I finally got to see it. I've been wanting to see a Cirque Du Soleil show quite literally since I moved to Florida from California, and being able to see it finally was so good. And watching it with Jake was so fun. Now, a couple of the characters that I will shout out that I thought were funny. The number one person, there was this one dude. He worked in almost every single scene, and he was like the comedic relief. And he always had this joke where he'd be like, okay. And again, Cirque du Soleil, you don't talk that much. So literally every single thing that he would do would end with, okay. And it was really funny. The next person, I think, was a little bit iconic because she was like the villain of the show. And so she was essentially the bad ideas reincarnated. So whenever you have a bad idea, you take a piece of paper, you crush it up and you throw it. Well, imagine that piece of paper that's all crumpled is actually like, she comes to life. And so she came to life, and she has this big segment in the show, which is called How to Be a Villain. And oh my God, it was so funny because she basically sees, okay, the first thing I need is to have a really good evil laugh. And so on the stage, you see every single Disney villain. So you hear Gaston's evil laugh, you hear Maleficent's evil laugh, the evil queen. You hear all of like the classic villains laugh, and she's like trying to mimic it. And it's so funny. Like, she was hilarious. And by the end of it, her costume transformed into her being like a full animation, and it wasn't like a bad idea any longer. So I thought that she was amazing. But yeah, all in all, that was our experience at Cirque du Soleil. I will tell you, it is 110% worth it to go check out, because I feel like as someone that goes to Disney and someone that advises other people to come to Disney, all you think about is the parks, you think about the resorts, you think about the restaurants, but you don't think about the shows. And Cirque du Soleil is such a fun thing to add to your vacation, especially if it's a rainy day. And tickets are not insanely expensive, which I was pretty surprised at. Obviously, this time around, I did not have to purchase my ticket. But if you guys wanted to do a little bit of research, they're not too much. This was also such a fun date night between Jake and I. And we ended up going to Splitsville, and we got food before we went. We got to rock around a little bit, and we just got to enjoy like a fun little evening date night to ourselves, which we really loved bringing you guys along with us. But that about sums up our experience. I hope that you guys liked this video. Please let me know if you are loving the Disney content. I love going to the parks, but I love finding these little niche things that you guys can do as well. Our podcast is going live this week, Monday, 8 a.m., just like normal, same time as the vlog. And I hope that you guys are having the best day wherever you're watching this. Be kind to yourself and stay loco. Mwah! I love you.